What is an absolute truth that no one wants to hear? It is possible to make no mistakes and still lose. That is not failure, that is life. Captain Jane Luck Pickard. You need to have your views challenged. Being around and positively engaging with people who disagree with you is one of the healthiest intellectual practices we can do. Positively engaging, absolutely. The problem is that most people are unwilling to give you the courtesy of arguing in good faith or opening their minds. You can't control what happens to you, only how you react to it. Even though you think your kids are special, they are most likely just average. What about Carl? Your spouse/child/home/job/vacation, etc. is not nearly as important to anyone else as it is to you. We don't know everything, and probably never will. You don't know that. Good one. No one wants to hear your shitty music in public, especially in class. No one wants to hear your shitty music anywhere. It could be my favorite song ever, but if someone's blasting it in public, it's still annoying. Life is easier for attractive people. I once went on vacation with one of my very attractive friends. I was absolutely floored at the amount of people that just went out of their way to help us, give us free stuff, etc. But I also noticed if someone ever told her no, she would lose her shit. She just wasn't used to it. This is why I'm glad I'm both attractive enough not to hate myself and used to failure. There's going to be a day where you are totally forgotten by everyone. After a generation or two after your death, no one alive will have any memories of you, your life, everything you did, and all of your struggles and achievements will all be forgotten. You'll just be another one of the billions of forgotten souls whose names, faces, and life stories have all been lost to time. Everyone's a hypocrite, even you. No, you got him. At least pertaining to Reddit where US politics are concerned. We are not a good representation of the voting population in the United States. Mainstream Reddit and the Twitterverse are but a small part of actual voters. Regardless of how overwhelmingly in support of a candidate we all might be, it's not a good indicator of how much support someone, like Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, actually have. Less a fact and more my opinion now. I think Reddit tends to do their political activism on Reddit only, to where they receive overwhelming support from other Reddit users. It does nothing for their actual community or spreading a message, while still giving them the satisfaction of having made an impact. I think it's important to remember not to get complacent just because a bunch of Reddit/Twitter users support your views and your candidate. We are a very small portion of a much larger population, and we tend to do too much preaching to the choir, so to speak. I would bet that less than 30% of Redditors actually vote, partially because they are too young, and partially because they don't really care that much. All live under another citizenship. You are always replaceable. Yes, but my goal is to make it just more expensive to replace me than to go on paying me. At least in my case at my old job, it took 3 people to replace me. That you need to uplift others, to improve society and the world, but everyone is more focused on crushing those around them to ensure their current, or potential, position in the world. There is always someone better than you. What about the best person? Because there is a finite number of people. Someone must be at the top. Everyone loses to time, eventually. Your parents ducked. Wait. People are actually having sex. I thought we were all kidding. Everyone you love will die. Everyone you hate will die. Everything ends. No one is at the wheel. There is no one leading the planet. Just powerful people, companies, and countries all struggling together against everyone else for power, money, and control. It's all driven by self-interest. All children are innocent, but they're not all good. Some people will grow up to be ducking assholes regardless of what they're exposed to. You're not supposed to label children as psychopaths, but some of them absolutely are. A lack of a conscience is something you're born with, and you can see these traits pretty early. Children can be diagnosed with conduct disorder, which is basically like the child version of being a psychopath. For adults, conduct disorder is labeled as antisocial personality disorder, and that is a clinical term for psychopath/sociopath. Han shot first. Han was the only one who shot. Your friends and family likely talk tons of shit about you behind your back. I definitely know this one is true. Lol, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received is to never talk ill of anyone to others. Everyone knows by now that if you'll talk shit with them, you'll talk shit about them. So it makes people feel more comfortable around you if you refuse to talk ill of others. Having an opinion doesn't make you right. That's just like your opinion, man. There's always money in the banana stand until you set it on fire. Things are going to keep getting worse on our planet, and we are in for some serious human tragedy. The second Holocaust is happening in China, and no one seems to give one. The tragedies have already started. The first Holocaust was happening in Germany's front window, but the community didn't care until Adolf parked his tank in the neighbor's driveway. China's just staying in their house while they do this. I guess my added sad truth to this thread would be, unless it affects them very specifically, most people don't give a duck beyond lip service. Your dog will probably die before you. Not with that attitude, it won't. Just because you've been with someone since high school doesn't mean they're right for you. Don't base your future on childish dreams. As long as we fail to protect and provide for all children in our society, we will continue to suffer the crimes of the damaged adults we produce. We have no right to expect any different, and we deserve everything that we get. You aren't special. And that doesn't mean you're any less worthy of respect or humanity than any other person. No one is special, so no one is less or more worthy of respect or humanity than anyone else. We are not all equal, in any sense. And never will be. No matter what you do, you polluted the planet. Subjective. I like to think I've made it more jazzy. You can achieve anything you put your mind to is not true. Not even close. Genetics play a huge role in whether or not someone will be a good athlete or a super successful scientist. Can you be an okay athlete if you try really hard and practice really hard? Sure. Will you break world records or play for a professional team? No. You have to be especially gifted in the genetics department to do those sorts of things. The same thing applies for mental pursuits. Not everyone is smart. Some people just don't. Get it? You can try a million different ways of teaching a subject and some people just won't. Get it? Critical thinking, the ability to see a problem and visualize how to get a solution, comes much more easily to some people than to others. Can you sit there and memorize things and get good grades and whatnot? Absolutely. Will you ever be a scientist who does extremely important research and solves the world's next huge problem? Probably not. Unless you get hired because of nepotism or dragged along by someone who is good at critical thinking. Furthermore, much of what you can do is limited by who you know. If you're rich or your parents are rich and they know lots of people and have a large social network or a lot of people who want to please them for one reason or another, you'll likely find a job in whatever career you want to extremely easily, provided you're not totally inept. If you're the first in your family to get a degree and aren't good at maintaining a social network, you'll likely have an extremely hard time finding a job, even if you are the person best suited for the jobs you are applying for. Even if the job you're applying for is literally what you spent 5 years getting a PhD on. If you don't know somebody, you likely won't get that job. Corona may never go away and be in our lives forever in some capacity. Some people waiting for December 31st, as if the virus has an expiry date. Having a culture that is so focused on getting high or drunk squanders much of the time in our youth that we need to develop into thoughtful, pragmatic, and mature adults. The people who bother you the most in your life probably do so because you're the most similar to them. This became insanely relatable after my kids started to move out of infancy and develop personalities. I have a much easier time dealing with my daughter than I do with my son. My wife is the opposite. We have both discussed this and realized that it's because our kids are literally tiny versions of our personalities. There are a lot of violent people out there, and we aren't really doing much to change that. There are a lot of people hurting each other through sexual violence, and no one is ultimately making any effort to change that. Despite the fact that Reddit doesn't want to hear it, there are a lot of people who are attracted to young people throughout history and today, and until we actually acknowledge that, we are never going to stop people from being abused. The best solution for gun violence in the US that everyone could agree on is targeting the causes of violence. Now there will be issues on specific methods which people will debate, but you would be 10 times more effective in getting movement in that area than by trying to fight the brick wall of gun control vs gun rights. And politicians are never going to do this unless citizens tell them to change focus. Educated people have beliefs too. Education alone is not a magic solution to issues. It's our fault the world is not the way it's supposed to be. We didn't start it. It's just the people that came before us didn't fix it. And now it's our responsibility. Expecting politicians, athletes, and celebrities to influence positive change is bullshit when so many of us don't take extra steps to contribute positively in the world. You can't try. There is no one specific way the world is supposed to be. That, my friend, is the greatest source of human conflict in all of history. People who want to make the world work a certain way will always strive to positions of power, whether they intend to do good things for others or bad. The conflict between these ideologies is the history of all human conflict. There is no fix, because there will always be people who believe the solution is different than whatever solution is applied. That is why you were born into a world that still has problems. The eradication of the most devastating diseases that we fight today, i.e., cancer, will have potentially devastating unintended consequences. Humans weren't meant to live forever, and a cure for cancer will have interesting effects in the economy and society as a whole, with the world already overcrowded with people. Before I get killed on this, I don't mean for this to sound cruel or heartless. I feel as though we are already there. The advances of medicine allowing previously terminally ill infants to survive into adulthood, and the other side of aging being cancer treatment and stem cell therapy, even gene therapy for that matter. There's no population control beyond aggressive cancers and diseases like owls and prions. And of course Darwin Award winners just being negligent. I don't know where I was going with this, but damn. If all cancers had a cure, I can't see it being available to anyone other than the dripping rich. And how different would that be compared to our social climate now? More food for thought is in vitro fertilization. It allows two otherwise unfortunately incompatible people to create a baby, where previously it was impossible, leading to population growth avenues with no real limiting factors other than, what? Money, I guess? Sorry to ramble. I have a lot on my mind, and no expertise in expressing it at the moment. Life isn't fair, and you aren't owed a damn thing. You mean owed? What a depressing thread. Truth hurts, I guess. This one may be a bit sensitive, but racism is most likely never going to end. China is always expanding their influence, and the Chinese Communist Party treats people terribly. Well, you say no one wants to admit it, but a lot of people admit it. The issue is no one wants to deal with it in a way that's likely to produce change. So many of these are negative. So how about the truth that one of the best ways to be happy in life is by helping other people? People don't want to do it because helping other people feels like you're losing out, but it's true. People that eat meat while consciously knowing what happens behind the scenes with animals are animal abusers. Nobody exists on purpose. Nobody belongs anywhere. Everybody's gonna die. Don't believe everything you think. When you die, it could very well be nothing. Just blackness. Like before you were born. Thanks. I needed an existential crisis today. Remember, You can only have an existential crisis as long as you exist. If your existence ceases, so does the crisis. It ain't all about you. From my point of view it is. Whoever is reading this doesn't have anything better to do at the moment. Patently false. I should be working. 100% I'm neglecting a shitload of work as we speak. Only 4 questions on r/AskReddit ever make it to front page. This is one of them. If you have any real questions, go to Google. That's the truth no one wants to hear. Voting Trump out of office won't magically fix everything. He is a symptom of a bigger disease here in the USA. This thread is needlessly sad and many of these comments just revel in it. Something sounding sad and shitty doesn't make it true, and certainly not absolute. Some people are just evil. There's not always a reason behind it. 2021 will not magically be better than 2020. You have time to exercise. We're all just stardust. I mean that's kinda cool. Only a Sith deals in absolutes, which in itself is an absolute. Stop buying so many bananas. You're never going to make banana nut bread. Put them back. Not all babies are cute. Your personal appearance is incredibly important. Don't be fat. And don't slack off in the grooming department. Those two pieces can take you farther than you might think, looks wise. And if you can smell you, imagine how much others can smell you. Take regular showers. Mental illness is not an excuse for shitty behavior. Your problems are generally the consequence of your own action. If you live in the Western developed world, you are a lot more shallow and materialistic than you'd like to admit in terms of looking for a partner. Your looks and money are huge factors. Possibly even more important than personality. I'm gonna be real. I'm pretty sure most people get attracted to looks, but personality makes people stay. No matter how much you try to forgive your partner for cheating, there will always be remains of the pain it brought. Sitting in goal is not camping if your teammates are both in the corner instead of rotating defensively to far post to replace goalie. Your employer steals from you more than the government does. Some people are hypocrites and preach that they are anti-racism and pro-feminism, but are really just fake woke activists. The Library of Alexandria was burned, and with it, we lost countless priceless books and records. AskReddit is just the same 10 questions over and over again. No one really gives a shit what your eyebrows look like. Unless they're almost not there. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.